checking this out. This is one that's been recommended for a long time. It's held up as being one of those classic horror monster creepy creature movies or whatever. And I was expecting it to be just like, it's mid tier, whatever stuff, doesn't matter. Surprisingly, it is really good. And I recommend that you see it if you haven't. Like, even the first, like, 15 or 20 minutes, there's not as much stuff going on really, but it's still pretty good. Like, if it were like an 80s movies of some kind, there's, like, likable characters. The first opening, like, as the opening credits are going in, it's showing the town being, like, empty and desolate, and the credits look a little funky. Like, I was, like, already trying to come up with assumptions, and then it cuts to them being at a game, at a football game, and you're following a specific character, and then he ends up being one of the first people to die. Like, this was a really good little setup here. There's a lot of things they're setting up that I was like pretty much my brain was trying to work to expect, and then subverted me in a good way. It's like, oh, okay, that didn't happen. Oh, that character doesn't survive. Oh shit. Okay. Okay. That's already really good. And then the meteor crashes, the homeless guy's around there. It's like, okay, what's gonna he's gonna touch the thing, and that's gonna be how it spreads. Okay, it does, but then it takes out Paul or Charlie or whatever the name of the boyfriend was, whatever the football player. Like, it takes him, and it's all over him, and like burning him alive, pretty much. It's like, oh shit, like that was pretty intense right there. Okay, okay, not bad. I assumed that the blob wasn't going to be a thing that moves, or that if it does, like, it can only like start to move when it takes control of a person, and then it was going to be like a walking blob monster or something, like all kind of goofy, like like a Job the Hut creature of some kind. Nope, it's just a little blob thing that moves around, and it can shoot out. I'm gonna call them tentacles, even though that's not what they are. But to try to get things into it and absorb and take it on, and it's like, damn, okay, this thing's all right. It's an interesting creature to have, or an interesting entity to have in a horror type of scenario, because if you're an average person that look at that, like, what do you think you could do to it? Like, when they say that, oh, don't kill it, when the hazmat guys are trying to get it, it's like, what, you think your bullets are going to kill this thing? You fucking kidding me? And by the way, I'm just gonna be jumping around all over the place with this. I liked the twist that it was the government that sent this germ or whatever thing into space, and then it has mutated and changed a bit, sent and came right back. They made it sound like it wasn't planned to come back yet, but it did anyway. And they're like, okay, but they're still prepared to retrieve it for it, and they're preparing it to be a weapon for the Russians or something. Like, classic little thing there with the government, of course. And I like that type of a thing. And then this thing just, like, changed, and it's a predatorial type of thing. It's evolved in that type of way, or adapted, mutated, whatever. And yeah, it's like a man-made thing. They're trying to contain it in this town, and it also just shows that they're like having the hazmat guys and round all the people up, saying, "Oh, got to go to this place. There's a huge quarantine thing. Everybody is going to get sick. Everybody might need to get a shot and whatever." And this is in the 80s, and it's like, current day has some things like that. I'm not going to go too much into that for risk of channel being, or the video being taken down or something. But yeah, there are some correlations you could match up with today with that kind of thing. To just blindly listen to them without questioning it or trying to look more into it at all, or be skeptical what their real intentions are with doing it. That you should at least be skeptical when it comes to things like that. And as far as the girl and the guy that we're following, I thought they did a decent enough job with them as well. I mean, it might be a typical cliche type of thing the way they did it. Like, oh, he's the bad kind of guy, she's the good girl cheerleader thing, and then they end up falling in love with each other, even though they don't like each other at first. I think they do it well enough where they don't really care for each other all that much throughout the entire thing, but actions that they do start getting each other to like each other. So it does more work than others do sometimes. I will say that. Like, I watched The Lost Boys. I feel like there was a lot more of a believable connection with this blob scenario compared to the Lost Boys scenario of their romance, pretty much. But yeah, I recommend this. This was good. They kill off the little brother when they're running away in the sewer. Like, I wasn't expecting them to do that. When a film can kill off a child no one is safe. I mean, the fact that that first guy died, the boyfriend that seemed to be the main character, he was like the first like person we got a good shot of. That's like in the playing football. He's on the team. He's trying to get the girl. He's gonna do that, and nope, nope, not happening. He's out. And then his friend and the girl he's with, and he's trying to get laid and whatnot, and then they're out, and it's like, oh shit. So who's our main people that we're gonna follow? And then okay, we got our two main ones that we can pretty sure think are going to live till the end, or there'll be one of them left or whatever toward the end, sure. But then her little brothers, when they're running away, she goes and helps them get away from the blob and whatnot. Seems like they're about to get it out home free. One of the brothers gets taken down, and she dives in trying to get him out, and she comes back up for air, and then he comes up too, and he is already within the blob and already like half dead, pretty much. Just already his face is already melting, and there's nothing she can do at that point. So yeah, unfortunately, that's just what happens there. Okay. As far as the effects of the blob creature, it looks pretty good too. I mean, some parts of it look a little more, funky, kind of, okay, that doesn't look that great compared to things that we could probably do now to touch it up. But like for the most part, in most scenes, it looks good. It looks good, and I don't know, I liked it, and they did things subtly enough, they set up enough things that you can follow what's gonna happen, like, when they went in the freezer and it, like, went away from the freezer, it was an obvious, like, okay, they're gonna beat it by using something cold later, obviously, but that's a good type of setup, that's a proper type of setup, and I like that. There's a couple other things set up, too, like the jumping the little road gap and whatever, so it doesn't seem as random later, and this seems like the thing this type of character would do out on their own anyway, so that all made enough sense. I don't think I have any complaints for this movie, not really. It's paced well too. Like the way it escalates, the characters end up doing things. Some end up surviving that you don't think are going to. I thought the sheriff was going to be an important part in the final battle of this, but he wasn't. No, and that girl, the woman at the diner, like she unfortunately traps herself in a phone booth, and so gets definitely taken aback. And you see like a glimpse of the sheriff's body and then the blob when that happens. That's like the first time that you see like a body after it seems to have been in it after a little while. So I'm assuming that all the people that get absorbed in it just kind of melt into it anyway and just kind of get absorbed entirely, where their flesh gets singed or burned big time or whatever it eats them. I'm not sure how it processes it. I don't think that the blob poops, but when it all ends here toward the end, and they freeze it basically, and it's like okay, everything's all hunky dory, it's all good. They have the preacher, or yeah, I think he's the preacher, is like doing a thing in some other country, I think, and he looks really fucked up and messed up, and he's got like one eye that's there. He's got one eye, one sunglass covering the other eye, and he's like talking about the rapture and whatnot. And then somebody's like, "Oh, when's the rapture?" And he's like, I forget what he said, what his last line was, but he pulls out a jar that has a little piece of the blob in there, and he looks messed up. His face looks kind of all weird, like how that homeless guy did at the beginning when it was sort of in him a little bit. I'm not sure if this blob thing has any sort of like mind control sentience, a personality necessarily. That's what I assumed it was going to be at the very beginning, that once it takes control of a human, it'll have more of a humanoid personality to it or something. But no, it doesn't throughout the whole thing. So I'm not sure exactly what they're implying by the end, other than the preacher wanting to bring the end of the world. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe somebody that knows this movie a little bit more, is more familiar with it, can let me know and chat with me about it sometime or something, or leave something in the comments, because I wasn't sure what the ending was supposed to imply, other than it being one of those hook endings of like, gasp, oh no, after all this work, there's still potential for there being another thing, and or it's just plain old sequel bait. Like, we don't know if we're going to do a second film, but here's a hint if we are going to. Otherwise, you can just leave it up to their imagination otherwise. But the blob was really enjoyable. I liked it. I really liked it. One of the kids, I'm just remembering another line. One of the kids, the brothers or whatever, they're like, "Oh, can we go see a movie?" She's like, "No." It's like, "Oh, it's okay. It's just the one where like 13 people get sliced in half, but there's no sex or anything bad in it." I just love that kind of a little line there. Hilarious. Yep. The violence is totally okay. Anything sexual, not okay. But yeah, I love this movie. Surprisingly, this was really good. I'm becoming a horror fan the more that I watch, I think. But that's all I got to say for this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and have a good one.